Hey guys, it has been a while. This is Maverick here with episode 24, the finale of Vinland Saga. Yes, it's very belated, I know. As I explained earlier, I was on vacation all of last week. And, once you get back, let me just say this. Once you grow older in life, there's more and more obligations that you need to take care of, including in your own life and in work as well, right? And so it's just, especially winter, January, February, it's really hectic for me. Especially with all the vacations and holidays and whatnot. It's a mess, right? So I've been wanting to get this out a little bit earlier, but it's really hard to find time to do this. But anyways, as I promised, I will still be getting this out. And hopefully there's still going to be some of you guys watching it, right? And speaking of life, so quick refresher where we left off last time. Askeladd was finally, he lived his life in mostly mediocrity, if we say it like that. Finally got his calling, in a sense, right? Trying to allow Canute to become king, trying to become his right-hand man and whatnot. Things are looking up, and then they suddenly come crashing down again with Swain Forkspirit's announcement that he was going to invade Wales, right? I did think of a few different kind of scenarios in how Askeladd can defuse the situation. At the end of the day, though, as I've mentioned numerous times already, Swain Forkspirit is not long for this world. I'm honestly more interested to see how exactly he dies here. What is the author's interpretation of this event, right? Is he actually going to die directly in this gathering, or sometime later? Is he going to be poisoned, etc., etc.? On the other side of the spectrum, we got Thorfinn currently being convinced to give up his vengeance, give up his warring ways, and find peace and tranquility and move to Vinland and, live a life happily ever after, right? Now, somehow, I don't think he's going to be convinced to do that. It would make for a rather quick end to the series if he suddenly stopped these adventures, right? Although I guess he could still make that part of his goal, except that there's more things that he needs to do along the way, so he can't really leave yet, etc., etc., right? But, I don't know, my money's on that he's not going to be so easily convinced. In any case, let us get into the episode and see what exactly is the finale to this rather great series. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Man, it sucks that I wasn't able to watch the final episode of this while it aired. But, c'est la vie. Right. Alright, Ashley was about to be, honored. Or something or the other. Yeah, given his reward. 50 pounds of silver. That's it? For saving his son? That's honestly a bit less than what I was expecting. Alright. Is he gonna berate him? Okay, it seems so. Hmm. I mean, that's one method of doing it. But anyways, let me skip this real quick, see you guys in a second. And back. End of the prologue? Huh. But aren't you acting a little bit... Yeah, you have to have something else behind this, right?
まず、我々は10年にわたりイングランド軍と戦ってまいりました。今は国土も人も存亡の回復に努めるべきかと。もう一つは、ウェールズの地の険しさとそれゆえの貧しさでございます。たかがウサギを追わんがために疲れた馬を鞭打ち、県外に踏み込むがごとき行いです。一口に申し上げて、ウェールズ攻略は割に合いません。
I'm not sure I quite buy this.
ほんと口が回るな。攻略ではない。そんなものども放置せぬことが。
Yeah.
勘違いするな。さようのことがご懸念であるならば。
You need to offer something else.
私めを死者に。
See, there we go. Okay. This is what I was talking about previously. So you know, to allow him to handle this matter, right? I feel like I feel like he should have been a little bit more pressing on the matter. He sounds desperate here. Oh, what exactly? Right? What is he playing at? Hmm. Hmm. Wow. He's got a good intelligence network. Nobody ever said Swain Forkspear was incompetent. That doesn't look like the eyes of the guy who's been convinced. Yes? Yeah, he's gone. I mean, he's not literally expecting an answer right now, is he?
細工が光も乗っけてんじゃねえっつってんだよ。
What?
王者の面じゃねえぜ。動くな衛兵ども。王は俺の間合いの中だ。
動くなトルケル。アセラットは尋常ではない。刺激するな。
剣を収めよ。さればこの比例は許そう。許す？図に乗るな蛮族めが。我が一族と我が民への愚弄、万死に値する。最後の忠告だ。剣を収めよ。アシェラット。そりゃあだ名だ。我が母より授かりし真の名を教えてやろう。
Do tell.
ルキウス・アルトリウス・カストゥース。このブリタニアの地を滑るべき正当の王である。
Well, that's how he's. Huh. I mean, again. I mean. What? All right. How are they gonna get out of this situation? Is he gonna kill himself?
何をしたっておる。出会え。
出会え者ども。こやつは大殺しの大罪人だ。切り捨てよ。
Yeah. He's gonna sacrifice himself, I guess. And Thorfinn's like, I'm the one who's supposed to kill him!
どうした。次に死にたい者前へ出よ。ブリタニア王が自ら切って死んでようぞ。
ひるむな。人数で押し切るめ。
Right, and so that's how Canute gains the favor of all the rest of the nobles and men.
こらえろトルケル。そなたの出番はまだだ。
どうでもいいよもうよ。血迷いやがって。俺は獲物を横取りされんのが一番綺麗なんだ。
あやつは血迷ってなどいない。あれは芝居だ。私とウェールズ、両者を救う選択を
And sacrifice himself.
乱心のふりは大殺しの罪を一人で被るためだ。今少し暴れさせてやれ。とどめはそなたに任せる。
俺は知らねえ。
I think Thorfinn's going to be the one
あいつはお前
who's gonna kill Askeladd.
飼い犬の始末は飼い主がつけてやれよ。どうした電人ども。アシェラット。貴様。
Oh.
それが王に対する口の利き方か。ひざまずけ。貴様には世の靴に口づけをする栄誉を与えてやる。そして死ね。アセラット。来るなトルフィン。
And so, guess he's dead now, Askeladd. Wait, not yet? Yep. Like, this is way too... Oh, okay, never mind. I thought the wound was too light.
アセラット。おい、やれ。やったのか。殿下だ。殿下が。
Poor Cal is not really impressed with this entire thing. But, yeah, he's way smarter than most people take him for.
おいハゲ、何悠長に寝てやがんだてめえ。くそったれ。面倒なとこ刺されやがってバカ野郎が。
たくうるせえな。ちった休ませろや。
てめえ、さっさと立て。こっから逃げっぞ。
バカ。とっととやってくれよ。待たせて悪かったな。くれてやるよ。俺の命。やれよ。俺とお前は敵同士だろうが。
死ぬのか。お前が。
早くしろ。時間はねえぞ。
なめてるのか。てめえ。こんなんじゃねえだろ。俺とてめえの決着は。こんなんじゃねえ。許さねえぞ。勝手に死ぬんじゃねえ。立て。今すぐ俺と決闘しろ。てめえを倒すのは俺だ。おいこら。ふざけんな。さっさと立て。
ガキはこれだからな。
Ah.
お前どう生きるつもりだ。
That
俺が死んでからその先どう生きるつもりだ。トルフィン。何も考えてなかったんだろう。
うるせえ。
いい加減先へ進めよ。いつまでもこんなクソくだらねえところに引っかかってねえで。ずっと先、トールズの言った世界のその先、トールズのこのお前が生き、それがお前の本当の戦いだ。本当の戦士になれ。トールズの子。
And so Fortman actually didn't kill him at the end.
が突如乱心し、王陛下殺害という大罪を犯したためだ。だが、こうなってはもはや私の下で働く気などあるまい。望むところへ去るがいい。
We lost now.
殺せ！こいつも逆賊だ！やめろ！そやつは殺すな！下がれ！そやつの処分は私が決める！トルケル、もうよい。切られるくらい安い代償だ。
殿下、奥の間にてお怪我の手当てを。この場は私にお任せください。お連れしろ。
フローキ、戦王なき今、イングランド方面軍の総大将は誰と心得ておる？
いや、それは。
どうした？申してみよ。者ども、聞くがよい。戦王スヴェン陛下はお隠れになった。ただいまより全軍の指揮及びイングランド統治はこのクヌートが代行する。ウェールズ討伐は取りやめ、戦王の死によりイングランド軍残党の放棄が予想される。まずはそれに備えねばならぬ。宝章授与の続きなどは追って沙汰する。以上、解散せよ。
I guess I see why this is called the end of the prologue. You know, in a sense, this entire prologue, the focus has really been on Askeladd instead. Oh. Are these the new characters for the next season? Oh, he has face, so I guess so. I don't know. I really don't know. And that's it? Well, alright. I'll take a look at it if there's anything else after this. If not, well, I guess I'll see you guys in a second. A rather abrupt ending, right? Like, nothing really much else was said, no mention of a second season or whatnot, although, judging from the sort of, I guess, sneak peeks of the different characters, I'm assuming, from the very end there, I do believe that a season 2 is inevitable, considering the quality of this, considering the popularity of it. It would be a shame if this did not get another season, right? So, well, like, let's just put that aside for now and talk about this episode first. So, let's start with the most obvious thing, right? Which would be Askeladd's death at the very end there. Now, some of you are probably thinking, hey, Maverick, how come you're not really acting, how come you're so calm during that scene or whatnot? Did you already see it before? Well, honestly, it doesn't really come as too much of a surprise for me, right? It could have gone either way, right? But honestly, him dying here solved one of the questions that I was asking. I think I asked this a few times during the review sections of the other episodes as well. And that is, in terms of this being historical fiction and still, being based on historical events and whatnot, Askeladd is really too much of an outlier. I've been saying this numerous times for these, especially these past few episodes, that Askeladd's capabilities, his abilities, is really way too good to be a complete unknown in history, right? Now, of course, when I'm talking about complete unknown, I'm not saying that there's no mention of this kind of character or whatnot. I do know that he appears in sort of in some sagas of the Norse and whatnot, but I'm talking about from a true historical record perspective. Askeladd, we never saw this type of this sort of person with this amount of capabilities actually being mentioned in historical records, right? So whenever you're dealing with historical fiction here, you're always going to run into this sort of problem of creating your original character or whatnot that's just a little bit too good to the point where he could easily influence the course of history. And honestly, with the way that the anime portrayed Askeladd, his intelligence, his wit, his fighting prowess, he could have easily been one of the people who affected history, right? I think I talked about this exactly last episode or 2 episodes ago at the very end there as well. So, just from this sort of perspective, it's not a good idea to allow Askeladd to continue on for too long, right? Otherwise, it's going to be harder and harder to contain him within the historical context that the anime is supposedly in. And the second part of this is in just his character setting, right? The type of character that Askeladd is, the way that he carries himself, the way that he normally acts and whatnot. He's not exactly a character who you're supposed to feel sorry for or emphasize with or get feelings with, get emotional about, right? Again, I think it should be fairly obvious that Askeladd is definitely my favorite character out of this entire series so far. But honestly, you couldn't have a better ending for him, right? This is the same sort of character archetype that follows the likeness of historical figures like Kakao, like Nobunaga, the Caesars, the Alexanders, those kinds of great people, right? They do great things, and when they die, it's just the only thing that you're mourning is that their greatness has passed on. You're not really mourning for this person themselves, if you guys can get what I mean here. The distinction here, right? He's not really dying. This entire ending scene here, the only thing that you can take away from it is that he died an epic death. It's not that he died a tragic death, right? So, going out guns blazing and whatnot, you honestly couldn't ask for more for this type of character. So, to me, the best way to handle this type of situation is to salute them when they go out instead of actually mourning for them or whatnot. So, going out with this kind of badassery, to me, that's the perfect ending for him. Of course, would I have enjoyed it more if we had more of Askeladd? Absolutely. I love this character. I love the sort of mind games and intrigue that he plays. And really, he's going to, once with his death, there's going to be this void here that's very hard to fill, because so far we haven't seen another person with this equal amount of intrigue and intelligence within the show. Of course, it could be possible that that type of character is going to come out later on in the next season or whatnot, but his absence is definitely going to have a huge impact as to how the story carries itself going forward, right? We're probably not going to see as much of these court politics or whatnot going forward, so that of course is a great bummer. But I'm just saying, he died a death that was befitting of his character, right? And so let's talk a little bit more about the intricacies of this entire scene here. The part where Askeladd just beheaded King Sweyn Forkbeard and allowed Canute to take control of the throne, right? Now, obviously, I don't think I need to go into too much as to why this thing happened as it was. You can simply say that Askeladd, in his haste, he didn't really have much time anymore, and honestly, I feel like he's just a little bit fed up with this entire situation, and of course, it doesn't help that he's also a little bit enraged because of Sweyn Forkbeard's comments in regards to his mother, his family, right? So, could there have been a better out for this situation? I do believe so, but it also fits within the context of the characters that this is the path that he chose to go, and at least to his mind, at that time, this is also a way to guarantee both Canute's ascension as well as the safety of Wales, right? Now, with that being said, there are quite a few liberties taken with history here, right? So, one of the obvious things that this is, way before, and more to do with Forcow, is that we know for a fact that during this time, Forcow was not allied with Canute, not allied with the Danes yet, right? He was still working with King Aelfred, even though at this time, I believe King Aelfred had already fled to Wales. Sweyn Forkbeard was still in England holding down the fort. He still had his army stationed there. They were still enemies at that time, right? Definitely, there was no mention in history of him already, especially right as a retainer, as a vessel of Canute during his time and attending, these feasts and whatnot alongside with them. Definitely something that did not happen, right? And for this specific event, now granted, we don't know the exact circumstances of Sweyn Forkbeard's death, right? It's not really explicitly mentioned in any of the historical texts. With that being said, however, it is really, really hard to believe that an event of this kind of magnitude, like this kind of blatant assassination, would not have been recorded somewhere or passed down somewhere, and that it was completely hidden away and never revealed to, there's got to be loose lips somewhere, right? It's hard to believe that an event of this magnitude was kept completely secret, and so nobody was able to guess the exact circumstances. So, using, by what process of elimination, the more easy answer would be to say that this probably did not happen historically, right? And that's why, through the past few episodes, I was wondering, like, is King Sweyn Forkbeard going to die out of natural cause? Because, it's been hinted at that his health seemed to be in poor condition, right? It's entirely possible that he died here out of some illness, a heart attack, or etc., right? Maybe through getting into a sort of shouting match with Askeladd, right? Like, that was honestly the type of situation which I thought was the most plausible. And of course, if you are going to say that he was assassinated, I would have thought that it would be a more subtle or silent type of assassination. Definitely not something where, this, honestly, you can't really say it's an assassination, right? He literally just beheaded Sweyn in front of everyone. So, is this something that historically happened? Most probably not. But, of course, it's cool, right? It's definitely cool. It's just that, and, considering that this is a fictionalized series, the author obviously wants to do stuff that is of a larger scale and cooler than maybe just, as I mentioned, the more reasonable thing, which is that Sweyn died of, maybe he strained himself, maybe he got more stress, and then he fell ill, died an acute death, something like that. That'd be more reasonable, but that would be less fun, right? But I'm just saying that we need to properly divide these two things, we wouldn't really want to, Vinland Saga is quite historically accurate in some aspects of what it's trying to portray, right? Like the big events, the big timelines, the sort of weaponry, the clothing styles and whatnot that they're using. However, definitely don't, this is still fiction, right? And I think that's what I'm trying to get at here. And so, the events that happened after, it sort of kind of went the way that they did here as well, right? The people of the Danelaw, the Danes that lived in England at that time and followed Dane law, followed Dane influence, they did choose Canute to lead lead them in England at this time period, whereas his brother Harold, since he was already the regent of Denmark while Sweyn Fortescue was away, he became the king of Denmark. And that's that's something that Sweyn, not Sweyn, that Canute is going to have to go back and forth to take care of in the future, but that's for another time and space. Now, of course, even though I did say that the Danish in England right now chose Canute to be their king, the problem is that immediately after this, the English, the native English, they felt that they actually submitted to Sweyn Forkbeard and not to Canute, and so they didn't completely recognize his rule. Instead, they chose to ask King Alfred, who was currently hiding in Wales, to come back and lead them again, and so that made it into another War of England, which Canute is going to take 2 to 3 years to take care of, right? And yeah, that's stuff in the next season, of course. With the ending that we have here, I think that's pretty much adequate for what it is, right? Now, again, to go back to this entire ending scene and how Askeladd chose to use this kind of method to sort of accomplish both goals at the same time, if we really go to the intrigue side of this plan still has a lot of flaws, right? So what I'm talking here is that Askeladd, he's a relative unknown, right? People aren't the people here, the people in Sweyn's court, they're not really going to know how big of an impact Askeladd had, what exactly is his capabilities and whatnot. People could easily think that this was a plot hatched by Canute to assassinate his father, Sweyn, in order to take the throne for himself, right? Especially because there were these numerous rumors between Sweyn and Canute surrounding him all this time. Now, granted, they were sort of dispelled, or they were, at least Sweyn tried to dispel these rumors in the last episode by, providing land and riches to Canute and whatnot. It's still fresh in people's minds, right? People could easily be suspicious of this and say, hey, at the end of the day, you're the one who brought Askeladd here. You could have, easily staged this play yourself, right? And so, yeah, honestly, maybe it's no, I feel like, under that kind of circumstances, anybody would think that this was still a sort of suspicious kind of situation. Now, would the Danes really care that much about this sort of regicide / patricide? I don't really know. I haven't studied Danes enough or Norse enough to know about this. Now, granted, Sweyn did do the exact same thing to his father as well, and that isn't exactly a secret, so perhaps it doesn't really matter much at the end there. I'm just saying, though, it's still a really risky move, and it's definitely not something that I feel would have fooled most people, everybody, right? Now, there could have easily been some Harold supporters within the army at that time who would basically be saying, no, I don't recognize you as the king. Harold should be king. You were the one who brewed up this plot to kill Sweyn, right? That could have easily happened as well, right? So I'm just saying that there's still a lot of flaws to this plan as well. And wow, I've been talking a long time already. I put a lot of emphasis on Askeladd in history, so let's talk about Thorfinn for just quite a little bit, right? Now, I was a little bit surprised that Thorfinn wasn't able to deal the killing blow. I thought that was actually something that at least the author was going to give him. I guess sucks to be Thorfinn. And we can see that he's clearly going crazy, right? He's lost his goal in life, and he's sort of kind of lost his father figure in Askeladd as well. He's really, really a broken man, right? Although now that Askeladd is dead, I guess we can finally really focus the story on Canute, not Canute, on Thorfinn now, and especially because Askeladd is dead as well, maybe now we can finally allow Thorfinn to really grow into his own character, right? Because the shackles that are tying him down have been freed. Of course, he's sort of in a mess right now, but at least he is 3, right? So, yeah, there we go. To quickly wrap things up, what do I feel about the Vinland Saga series as a whole? Well, first of all, I absolutely love this series. The characters, Askeladd is definitely my favorite character, probably from last year, I guess you could say, from 2019. Absolutely amazing character. He's deep, he's strong, he's intelligent, he uses intrigue, he's ruthless, he's pragmatic, all the qualities I like in a guy, right? The story is well put as well. It's definitely very romanticized in a sort of way, but it also has the brutalized depictions of war as well, right? It covers both. It covers the romantic images of war and battle and whatnot, but it also deals with a lot of the more brutal and cruel and, I guess morally questionable aspects of war as well. And I do love it when an anime is not afraid to pull these kind of punches and show both sides here, right? The historical accuracy, I mentioned this a little bit more in the first 1 to 4 episodes, I would say. And mostly the historical accuracy I'm talking about here is in regards to, as I mentioned before, the weaponry that they're using, the sort of designs of the buildings, of the houses, of the clothing and whatnot, and what we could generally expect from Scandinavian culture, from Norse culture during that period of time. I do love it, and of course there is a lot of liberties taken during battle, especially with these sort of superhuman people, sort of like Force, like Askeladd, like Forkow. But at the end of the day, this is still a work of fiction and an anime/manga fiction after all, right? So it's excusable. It's excusable. Now, the things that I didn't really like that much is the liberties that they took with the historical depictions, right? Like, this is, I wouldn't say it's a major gripe, I just feel like it's something that could have easily been avoided, right? Because we do have a lot of holes during history of this time. You could have easily, used, let your imagination run wild, and, so the best way to describe it is like, okay, so within this sort of time period, we know the historical events of A and historical events of B, right? Now, how you get from A to B, that is like a blank field. So you can do anything you want to sort of, as long as you get from point A to point B, that would still be good, and it would still be historically accurate, right? Now, I do feel like in this case, the author went ahead, even though there were these many holes that you could have filled, that you could have a blank canvas on. The author chose to actually change some historical facts to fit into the story, and I felt, is it better for the story? Maybe, maybe not. I come from a history background, so for me, I'm a little bit more I'm a little bit more picky in terms of the historical accuracy, let's just say. So that's, to me, that is a little bit of a minus here. And I guess the real, I have my gripes with Forfin or whatnot, but I do see why the author is trying to do it, to style him like this. I mean, of course, it's not, I don't think it's any secret that I don't particularly like this type of character, but at the end of the day, it is a fictionalized character, and the author is trying to do something with this, right? So that is that. Now, the only part of the characters that I don't really like, or I felt like could have been done a lot better, would be Canut's transformation, somewhere around, I guess, episode 18, 19, somewhere around there, right? I thought that transformation was a little bit too drastic in too short of a time period. Now, that, granted, that could be time constraints. It could also be a case where, this is, if this is to believe, is only the prologue, right? So maybe the author didn't really want to take too much time to sort of develop Canut's character. I mean, at the very least, the end result of Canut was that he was more in line with the Canut of history that we know, right? So at least that is a plus. I'm just saying that the change was a little bit too drastic from the Canut as we initially saw him into the Canut that he is today. So, alright, that has been way too long of a review, honestly. So, yeah. Anyways, sorry guys for this belated episode. Hope you guys still watched this. Hope you guys still enjoyed this. It is a little bit long. Yeah, I know. I like to talk a little bit more about the historical stuff around this. But anyways, it's been a great ride. So for those of you who are only here for Vinland Saga, do feel free to check out my other works as well. Shop around. Perhaps you'll like my kind of format where I discuss a lot more in-depth at least on topics that I do know about, or some trivia that I do know about and related to Japanese culture, or the specific topic that was referenced within the anime, right? If not, well, hope to see you guys again sometime down in the future. You do what you want. I'm not here to force you to stay, right? So there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope to see you guys again. This is Maverick signing off.